some of the people that were actually there, going to the Roswell Museum itself and meeting Walter Haut, the public information officer that wrote the article about the Roswell Army Airfield captures a flying disc on a Roswell ranch. Meeting him was very eye-opening. Some of the witnesses that were also privy to some of the information at that time I had also spoken to. So in my mind, there was no question something was happening. And did happen at that time in Roswell, New Mexico. And that's obviously one of the more famous UFO stories in ufology, UFO history, etc. Some of the things that I also talked about in there were, unidentified submerged objects. I felt for me that was the biggest. If I was on the fence with anything, I soon figured out that the unidentified submerged objects, the crafts that were witnessed by Navy people and others, that was the most compelling to me. That really took me, not that I ever was on the fence, but anything that was in question, I definitely felt that was really where everything was at. In my opinion, the Earth is 70% water, so it made perfect sense that these crafts would be coming and going from oceans, and that it wasn't always necessarily something that was always from outer space coming here. It may have started from outer space at one point, but the more I looked into that, the more I understood that there could be bases, that type of thing, in the bottom of different oceans and different areas, particularly a place like the Bermuda Triangle over there off of the coast of Florida, in the Atlantic Ocean area. And just that in itself, and talking to literally a few Navy personnel, and a couple of them, I put the interviews in there about what they had seen and what they had also captured on radar, was most compelling. And after going into that particular subject, UFOs, and understanding that they were both one and the same, that these craft could not only travel in the air and through space, but also under and through water, that began to make a lot more sense. And so it just became more logical, really, that this was going on and had been going on for a long time. Something like the show Ancient Aliens covers. So it made a lot of sense that it wasn't just happening now. We were just getting sophisticated enough ourselves, technology, to track these things and come up with radar or military people sightings, or just people in general sightings, the whole abduction, contact scenarios, all these things I write about in the book. The idea of UFOs. That's why the book is titled "Ambassadors to the Stars."
And I have my copy right here, and I want to show it to everybody on the screen. "Ambassadors of Stars" by Tony Sivalelli. Ambassadors of Stars. Tony,
to the stars. Yep.
To the star. Are you able to see me now?
No, I cannot.
Okay. I am not understanding what's going on here. But one of the things that all of this has led to and has made you even a more proficient remote viewer. In a lot of these targets that you talk about, and the fact that you've actually been able to remote view some of these things in the past, and I know that you've been close to a lot of other projects. Before we start, can you tell the audience maybe one of the most bizarre remote viewing cases that you know of, or even that you've been involved in?
Yeah, I can do that. Actually, Jason, most of my remote viewing sessions, and I've been remote viewing since 1997, and I did many of my sessions between 1997 and 2003, and I learned the ability to do this through the Farsight Institute in Atlanta, Georgia, under Professor Courtney Brown, who still runs that institute. But like I said, 90% of my remote viewing sessions from then till now, even, and I haven't been doing nearly as much more teaching in recent years, have been subject matter that are identifiable projects, that are what we call in the remote viewing field verifiable targets. Non-verifiable targets are more of the paranormal or theories or things like that, but these are mostly verifiable targets. But one of the most strangest ones that I've ever worked on, and I have it up at my website, it's www.learnremoteviewing.net, I have two of them actually that are the paranormal, two of the bigger projects that I worked on. One was the viewing of the planet Mars, and that something is going on subterranean wise. And this was all done after the book came out. And that I worked with probably 9 to 10 other remote viewers, and 3 or 4 of them were also of the former famed military remote viewing units. But we did this as a civilian project with 3 or 4 different schools of remote viewing, and we combined all our data, and we were always blind to the targets, not knowing what they were. But we came up with very proficient information and data, and there's a whole short clip on that process and what we came up with the various sessions that we had, and it's on my links page at the learnscientificremoteviewing.net, the website that I have right now. Another project was also in called Project Redgate, and it was in a small town in Montana, and there were abductions going on in the late 50s and early 60s that, again, I was blind. All of us that participated, roughly about 7 or 8 remote viewers with this, were chosen to work on this project by a person by the name of Linda Cowan, and she teamed with the late Jim Mars, and they put together also a video, a documentary as well. But remote viewing was part of it, as was the eyewitness testimonies, lie detection tests, remote viewing, in several other ways that information was gathered about a small town that for a period of several years, the residents were having sightings, reported sightings. The police also got many of these sightings, reports to them as well. And it was Deer Lodge, Montana is a small town in Montana that this took place in the late 50s and early 60s. And it was very strange. It was odd. I mean, when you do remote view, once you become proficient at remote viewing and you get the understanding of what you're looking at or how they feel, or when you're in nature, or when you're in a technological area, or when you're looking at people, I will say, in my opinion, myself and others had a different feel when we were looking at some of this stuff that took place in Deer Lodge, Montana in the late 50s and early 60s. Remote viewing is not always, you're not naming or finding what the target is. You're always describing what you sense through taste, sight, touch, sound, and smell without being there firsthand. And you're bringing that information back from your subconscious mind to your conscious mind, to pen, to paper, and you record it. And then you compare, your results after you look at what your targets are. And the Deer Lodge, Montana was one of the more, if you want to call it strange or paranormal type feels to it, that would be one of the projects that I had worked on that would be covering all the bases about what you just asked.
And that was very serious. So let's go ahead and can you kind of sort of acquaint the audience with the process? Some of them were here the last time, but just sort of talk about what you're getting ready to do and how we'll get this thing started.
Well, all we want to do right now, and we did a little bit, we went into more depth, but we don't want to take a lot of time just going over the history of remote viewing. If somebody wants to do that, they can just go to my website, or there's other websites out there. Definitely people who have been versed in this and doing it even longer than I have, or some that just really do the history and don't do any of the remote viewing and just report the history. But all that is found at my website as well. But I'll go over real quick the Reader's Digest version of what went on. It was in the early 70s that some of the scientists out of Stanford Research Institute basically were looking at the idea of getting information without being at a location firsthand, that people had this so-called sixth sense psychic ability. And they got a hold of an East Coast psychic named Ingo Swann, who was very proficient. He was out of New York. He was also an artist, but he was a gifted, quote unquote, psychic. And they brought him out from New York to the West Coast, and together they worked on a series of protocols and phases that gained information from going to the subconscious to the conscious, to pen to paper, and they produced psychic-like results, and they termed it remote viewing. Well, soon after that, Stanford Research Institute, SRI, was also a think tank for various corporations, and the military got wind that this was going on, and the intelligence community got a hold of the group out of SRI, and they told them, you know what, we've had an interest in this type of thing. We've dabbled in it ourselves a bit. We'd like to know if you'd like to take this to the next level. So they said yes, and they gave him an exploratory grant for quite a bit of money at that time. And again, we want to go through this quickly. They brought in several other psychics, and within a few short months, the procedures were tweaked, and the military was, still very interested in it. And they said, "Wow, we're interested in what's been taking place. Do you think you can work with some of our people?" And they had some people doing something like this on the side, like in that movie Men Who Stare at Goats, only now they could do it more in an official capacity with professors, with science people behind it, etc. So they went through an interview process of several dozen people, and they picked roughly about 6 people to begin with that became part of the first military remote viewing psychic spies, if you will, unit. And this went on for nearly 20, 22 years. And different people came in and out of the program. It was called Project Grill Flame, Project Centerlane, Project Stargate, several other different names. And a lot of money was spent and put into this program. And so finally, in the early 90s, some of this started to leak out. So what they did is they were confronted by several different groups. One of them was the History Channel, and they said, "Wow, we found this pretty amazing that the military is working with psychic and psychic phenomena." They wanted to do a documentary on it for TV, and the military in Stanford didn't deny it. They felt they were okay as long as they had a say on how it was put together. So they put together this program that became a documentary, and it was titled The Real X-Files. It came out in 1993 on the History Channel. And coincidentally, that was the same year the TV series The X-Files came out as well. And after that, the cat was out of the bag, and the military had a backup plan, and they hired a third party to come in and take a look at everything. And they did. And after a couple months, Jason, they just said, it's not worth the resources you're putting in it. We would just say officially close this program down. So they did officially close the program down. I saw a Nightline documentary, and it was interesting and how it went over all of this, etc. Then I saw the History Channel one, and then I went out and got a book that was by one of the people who put together the program on the History Channel, James Schnabel, his name was.
Yes, Schnabel.
Yep, the book was called Remote Viewers, The Secret History of America's Psychic Spies. And soon enough, in 1997, I finally got out to the Far Sight Institute after learning transcendental meditation and reading this book a couple times. So I finally gathered enough courage actually to get out there. And so that was the beginning of my training there. And from there, I went to the Monroe Institute for a whole week, learned the out-of-body experience, went back to the Monroe Institute, learned more about it. A little bit of remote viewing was touched on then. And I learned that the remote viewing unit of the military, a prerequisite, was also a course in the study of the out-of-body experience at the Monroe Institute. Went back to the Far Sight back in 2002. So between 97 and 2003, I remote viewed or monitored hundreds of targets. I don't want to say I'm an expert, but I understand the process. I've had some really good hits, had some misses, but I definitely know how to teach it, etc. And that's where I began, the teaching part of it back in the early 2000s, and back and forth through time, and then all the UFO type of research that I looked at and went into, and all that went into the book. All those experiences, talking to people, going to UFO conferences, my own experiences, remote viewing projects, the study of the out-of-body experience, taking a look at how Hollywood plays a part in this. All this went into the book, Ambassadors to the Stars. So if any of your followers, your community, yep, there it is, has an interest in the idea of UFOs or out-of-body experiences or psychic phenomena, USOs, as I talked about before, the role Hollywood plays in it, interviews with many contactees, many histories of sightings, some of the ancient aliens. I've interviewed many of the people. A lot of those stories are in there. Some of my own experiences are in there. So if you have somebody that's interested in learning and they haven't had a lot of time to look at a lot of different things, this one book, without being too biased, but I will say if you have the time to read it, you'll get the idea of a lot that has perhaps been going on for a long time. I always leave it for the reader to take a look at it, and it's up to them, but they will get information and data.
And you can also, when you go through phase 1 through 3 tonight with this remote viewing session, inside of the book, Tony also talks about different phases and different types of remote viewing. So that would be interesting also if you wanted to pick his book up. But Tony, I'm all yours. The audience is all yours.
It'll be phases 1 and 3. There's 5 different phases. Phases 1 through 3 get you to know what the target is you're looking at, and 4 and 5, as you and I have dabbled deeply into, obviously, Jason, and you understand this as well as anyone, really gets you into more of the why, when, where more depth of what the remote viewing session is. But this will definitely be enough. We'll go over a quick study of how to do it like we did last time. So this isn't a true in-depth session of remote viewing, but it is a remote viewing session called Basic Scientific Remote Viewing. And actually, we're doing it to introduce it to your community, but also to have a little bit of fun here tonight so people can, participate, whether it's live right now or if they see it on another venue a little later, then they'll be able to do this session, right along with us here now. So we want to do a share screen first.
We're going to do share screen, and I apologize. I had a lot of camera issues, so I had to switch to the actual computer camera. So you can see me now, Tony, huh?
Oh, yeah, I can see you now.
Okay, good. Okay, here we go. Okay.
And I don't mean remote viewing wise.
Well, here's one more. We're going to read this. Hello, Tony. I'm looking forward to this remote viewing session. That's Tereska Hairston.
Hello, right. Tereska. Thank you for stopping by, and hopefully you'll have some fun with this. And don't worry about getting the target right or wrong. Just the participation is the appropriate part of it. I kind of look at this. It's kind of like exercising our sixth sense in a way. And by doing this, it's kind of like I'm also a fitness trainer, a nutrition guru, that type of thing as well. But by doing this, it's a way to gain knowledge about not only the process, but to increase your cognitive ability, memory, focus, recall, gut feeling, sixth sense, all these things, noticing more synchronicity in your life. When you practice remote viewing, or basic scientific remote viewing as in the case here, these things kind of get exercised. And so you start noticing things I just talked about a little bit more because they're always there, but we just have to exercise those faculties. So the first thing I want to say is just I always say thank you to all my instructors. The organization that I learned under was the Farsight Institute, including Mr. Professor Courtney Brown and Joe McMonagle and Skip Atwater, the Monroe Institute, many additional instructors, etc. And also thank you to Jason Medlock and all of his community that are following us here today, this evening. And what is remote viewing? We like to describe, or I describe, scientific remote viewing as a structured method of gaining data based on scientific protocols. Remember, we talked about how it was developed at Stanford Research Institute, that allows information to be transferred from an innate aspect of ourselves. You can call it the subconscious mind, spirit, however you want to call that, to the conscious mind, to pen, and then onto paper, and all of it from a distant location and or different time, all done with one's five senses, taste, sight, touch, sound, and smell, without being there firsthand. Remote viewing can be construed as a type of form of ESP as well. During this quick session here, I'm going to have some little interns helping me with some of the session here as far as the graphics. So I want to make it somewhat eye-appealing and entertaining as well. And each phase that we do, and we're just doing 2 phases today, we'll outline in the blue box what you'll be doing next, and blue is what you record at the bottom of the page, and then we'll have a completed example of what it should look like as well. So the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to learn and go through a walkthrough session. We're just going to walk you through it when we get to it, and to go step by step, and then we'll do an actual session afterwards. And one thing about remote viewing, you never want to ever concern yourself with guessing or labeling what a target is. If you ever come up with high-level information or data, all you do is you take your pen on your sheet of paper that you have and you write D. It'll be called for a deduction. Hyphen, you write down whatever it was, like if you get a strong sense, in this case, oh, it's President Lincoln. You go to the right side of your page, you write D hyphen President Lincoln. You drop your pen, you wait 5, 10 seconds or so, 15. Take a couple breaths, pick your pen back up, and resume where you were at. You're always describing what you sense with your 5 senses. Beginning of the class 1 intro, and this is what we call phase 1. What you'll do is we'll receive target coordinates, what Jason mentioned previously. It's 2 sets of 4 digits, 4 numbers. They're put on the left side of the page, about 3 inches from the top. Then we'll sketch out what's called an ideogram, and we'll go over that shortly with a little bit of practicing. Again, we're going to walk through a practice session before we actually do a basic scientific remote viewing session. You'll give the ideogram, IL, an ideogram label. A will be underneath that. You'll describe the movement of what the pen was with your words. We'll probe the ideogram, and we'll go with the into what that is. You'll take the tip of the pen and touch what that ideogram is that you sketch out, and you'll probe for primitive and advanced scripters, and then you'll go on to the next phase after that. But we're doing this one at a time here. So you'll receive first, for all people who are going to participate today, 2 sets of 4 digits. And what you do is you just write them out, and then you sketch out an ideogram right next to it. An ideogram is one of these right here. This is for a subject. You'll just sketch out one after the coordinates that you get. This is for a structure. This is for dry land. This is for water, mountain or pyramid, energy or motion.
Let's slow that down a little bit.
What's that?
Let's slow it down a little bit.
Okay, this way here, we're just going to have everybody that's participating or wants to participate in this now, just take a pen and a sheet of paper, have a couple, maybe 5, 6 sheets of paper handy with you right now. And we'll wait a couple seconds to grab that. And that's my bad for not saying, let's grab some sheets of paper first, but we're just practicing right now anyways. But sketch out just like it is right here. This is what you get when you have a subject. You just sketch out, you'll put down 4 numbers and then another 4 numbers underneath that. Those are your target coordinates. And then you'll sketch out real quick, less than 3 to 5 seconds, an ideogram. Then it'll be a structure or dry land, water, mountain, or energy. All you want to do right now is create a sheet of paper that looks just like this, even if it's just half as many as this, just so you get used to what an ideogram is. The loop here is for a subject, half a square, half a box is for a structure, a straight line is dry land, a squiggly line is water, up and down is a pyramid or mountain, and a jagged squiggly up and down line is for energy. So you just want to sketch those out, whoever would like to participate here.
Yeah, you may want to get about 6 or 7 sheets of paper.
Agreed.
For the session. So if you don't have paper, get some paper out now, about 6 or 7 sheets.
So we'll wait a couple minutes here, and we'll let your audience.
You have another fan, Tony. Let me put that out there. Hi, Tony. I've been waiting on this session.
We've got it now, Tasha. So hopefully this will be suffice. We'll give a few more seconds here to sketch these down. Again, a loop is water as subject. Half a box or half a square is a structure. Dry land is a straight line. Water is an up and down line. Mountain or pyramid is up, straight, down, straight. And a squiggly up and down line is for energy or motion. Okay, so you'll get your target coordinates. And then what you'll do, and I have it down here, you'll sketch out immediately to the right of your target coordinates, which would be about 3 inches up from the top of the page. You'll just write down 2 sets of 4 numbers. You'll sketch out to the right of that, and it should only take 3 to 5 seconds to actually do it, your ideogram. Again, your ideogram is one of these. You'll just sketch out one of those. So you immediately get a first sense of what you felt this target is. What these protocols do, meaning the things you write out and the format you have to follow, is called the protocols. What the protocols do in remote viewing, basic scientific remote viewing, is they keep the conscious mind occupied, all the while information comes to and through to the subconscious mind. So while you're writing this down, you're gathering actually information from your subconscious mind to sketch out that ideogram next to it. This keeps the conscious mind occupied, the target coordinates. And this is the way basic scientific remote viewing works, mainly throughout the process. So this is what you'll do. You'll sketch out those numbers, then you'll sketch out one of the ideograms next to it. And it says movement 2, movement 3. There is a movement 1, but we're not concerned about that. That goes up across the sheet when and if anybody takes a course with this, but it's of no necessary doings during this instructional short video right now. So remember, blue is what you're doing, what you're writing down. Blue is what you're doing, writing down. So what this looks like as we're doing this session is this. This is what your paper will look like. It's really quite simple. You sketched out the target coordinates, 3908, 0462. Quickly, you sketched out an ideogram next to it. So that's basically what it's going to look like when we start doing this session for real in a little bit. Then what you will do after you had the coordinates put down, like we saw on the last sheet of paper that we had right here, and sketched out the ideogram, then what you will do is you will go off to the right far side of the page, and you'll write down, remember, blue is what we do next, IL, meaning ideogram label.
That's number 4.
Yep. Either was it a subject that you sketched out? Was it water? Was it structure? Was it dry land? Was it mountain? Or was it energy? And you can call mountain pyramid. You can call energy motion. And then what you'll do after that is you'll drop down 1 inch underneath that and write A colon. You'll just simply describe the movement of the pen with words. It could be up, down, left, right, just a simple letter for those two. Loop, slant, which is a straight line off to the side. Slope is a curved line off to the side. So what A does is it allows you to describe what your ideogram looked like simply, but it allows you, while you're writing this out, another connection to what this ideogram is, which ultimately is what your target is. So again, we're keeping the conscious mind occupied while the information comes to and through to the subconscious mind. And what it looks like so far when we're going through this session, again, quite simple. Target coordinates, you sketch out a quick ideogram in less than 3 to 5 seconds. You go off to the right, ideogram label. What is it? It's a structure. A colon, you describe, as we said a second ago, describe the movement of the pen with words. Up to the right, point, down, straight. Just brings you closer to what the target is. After that, we're still in part of phase 1. Now we will do some probing. Probing is a very important part of remote viewing. What you do is you take the tip of the pen, you have it in your fingers, and what you do is you probe. In this case, it will be your ideogram. The probing is done throughout a scientific remote viewing session regardless, but in the case of what we're doing right here and now, it's phase 1, and you'll probe the ideogram. And what you do underneath, again, we have the coordinates to the left, the ideogram off to the right, ideogram label, A. Now blue is what we do next. You describe the ideogram. Is it soft? S for soft, SS for semi-soft, H for hard, SH semi-hard, W for wet, M for mushy. You take the tip of the pen 2 to 3 times, you touch it for a second or 2 each time, and you write down S for soft, SS semi-soft, H for hard, SH semi-hard, W for wet, M for mushy. Then you probe the ideogram for your advanced descriptors, right underneath the primitive descriptors. Again, you take the tip of the pen, probe the ideogram once again. N is for natural. MM is man-made. A is for artificial. E is for energetics. M is for motion.
So Tony,
We'll do 2.
So Tony, when they're
Yes,
probing, when they're probing the ideogram, how do they know what to put down? Can you tell them what they should be looking for?
What you're feeling.
Thank
what
you.
comes to your senses, literally. That's why before we do remote viewing sessions, we do a meditation, we quiet the mind, and we'll do that when we do the actual session here. We'll go through a short meditation. They go through the SRV affirmation. It's all the information that's coming to and through from the subconscious mind to the conscious mind, to pen to paper. You're kind of like going through the veil. There's an aspect of each person, whatever you want to call it, spirit, soul, subspace mind, subconscious mind, that is beyond space and time. Okay. That's what we've learned, my learnings through the far sight, my learnings is bringing up, as a child, as a youngster, that there's more aspect to us than just physicality. Definitely being more definitive with this type of thing when I learned that at the Monroe Institute with the study of the out-of-body experiences. That's why that goes hand in hand with remote viewing. But there's an aspect of us that is all prevalent. I think it's connected to source, what you want to call God or spirit or energy. I think we're all part of this aspect, but this is just one way just to exercise some of that aspect through our 5 senses. That's going a little bit into philosophical places, and I go into that in the book, but it's too much for what we're doing right now. We just want to concentrate on remote viewing and how to do this. But yes, there is an aspect of us I believe that is an eternal energy, and it's connected to something greater. But this is just exercising some type of a connection to that has this all prevailing knowledge and can bring it back. So this is what that looks like so far. You've got, again, ideogram after target coordinates, ideogram label, describing the movement of the pen with words under A, probe the ideogram for your primitive descriptor. In this case, it was H for hard. Your advanced descriptors we probed for with the tip of the pen, natural and man-made, and we hit a deduction. You hit D-stone and you set your pen down. So this is what a session looks like so far through what we're going to do today, phase 1. It's quite simple, but yet it's deep, I should say. But it's simple, but it's deep. And you got to keep the conscious mind occupied with these protocols and phases to again bring back information from the subconscious that goes to pen to paper. Now, before we go into a sketch, which is actually going to be phase 3, here's some important tips to remember about your phase 3 sketch. Never concern yourself while you're doing any type of remote viewing with artistic ability, grammar, neatness, any of those type of things. If you're an artist or pretty good at that or imaginative, that doesn't hurt, but it's not what remote viewing is about. You're also going to be in a type of zone, so you'll be focused. And again, you're not going to really remember even spelling at times, so you're not going to be concerned about that. The main thing when you're in the midst of a remote viewing session is just to get the data down and make sure you're not eliminating anything. So when you're doing your phase 3, which will be a sketch, say we take a new sheet of paper and we start sketching out what you're looking at or what you're sensing, you don't have to go into this type of deepness with a structure. Something to the right here under green is all that you need. You don't have to go into a subject like this right here underneath that tower. Just something right here is good. You do want to go beyond just ideograms because this is an ideogram of a structure, but it doesn't need to go anywhere near this, nor do you need that type of artistic ability or skill set as a draftsman would have. This would be fine for a structure, or if you feel the structure is more elongated and shorter. You don't need to go into, we're not going to do an ideogram for a sketch, but you don't need to go this deep. You can do just something as simple as that. And the same thing underneath here, like slight petroleum smell, you can just write it out real quick on the bottom if you need to do something like that. Again, I'll go over this, and when I do teach, and Jason can definitely verify this, I'm pretty repetitive with it. When viewing, recording, or sketching, never concern yourself with ever naming or guessing or labeling what the target is. That's where you deduct off to the right-hand side. We're just trying to describe what you sense always. Then you drop your pen after the deduction, wait 5, 10, 15 seconds, take a breath or two, pick it back up, and resume where you are in your phases and what protocol part and point you're at. So again, as we just practice, you're sketching out, that's phase 3. That's what we're doing today. We're going to do the phase 1 we went over. This is the phase 3 part. And this might be some of the different things that you get. You know, it could be a boat, a fish, a tower, a plane. You're deducting, oh, it's the Wright brothers, and you drop your pen. It's a tornado or some type of energy system, and you sketch that out. And you could have several different types of things that you feel throughout a remote viewing session. Again, we have a subject here. You can deduct who you might think it is, Admiral Halsey. Then I'll say, okay, let's put end of session at the bottom of your phase 3 sketch for right now. And you'll put the time, whatever time it happens to be where you're at when you're taking a look at this video. And that will be the end of your session for this particular evening as we do a practice remote viewing session. Now we're going to do this in a few seconds here now. And then we go over what I will do is what the target is. And for instance, this is, again, for practice. It was this particular volcano erupting in Peru in 2017. And I give credit to who the people took the picture. I always do that. Target coordinates are off to the side. And then what we do after that, we do a review. And if you get things like if that particular volcano, if you had things like a mountain or a hill or natural feel, energy, smoke, fire, volcano, these are all the different type of descriptors that we're looking for. You're not going to have all of them, but you want to have some of these descriptors where you had a feel for, and it can tell yourself or myself, that you had a connection to what the target was that you were looking at. Tall, towering. Again, that's all for this particular type of session. This was the target. And then we review it and see what types of data that you have that line up with what are pertinent points that are with that particular remote viewing session. Even if you start coughing or your eyes start watering or burning, you'd be amazed at some of the things that people will come up with depending on what is going on in the remote viewing session.
I think the last session we had one of the young ladies that was dizzy. You remember
Yeah,
you had the guy
that
on
was
the
a
tightrope.
tightrope walk.
Yes.
Absolutely. The guy balancing on the tightrope walk.
Yes.
And with the pole, no question about it. I've been around this for so long, nothing surprises me anymore. I've seen people go in tears over a session that was a very sad, type of session that people looked at. I've, had people have to get up because they were just an inner loudness, that whatever was going, in a particular session in a war stricken area that was going on. It's just amazing what sometimes you come up with, and sometimes you may only come up with a couple things, but as long as you're making that connection and as you practice, you can get better at it, like anything else that we do. Okay, now we're going to have a real session, but I want everybody to take a minute or two here if they need to have a drink of water, get up and stretch a bit. This will take about 15 minutes or so to do an actual session here right now, 15, 20 minutes or so. And we're going to do a short meditation first. We're all going to sit down and go over a quick meditation with Jason and I.
I think I can play a little music for them if we
Absolutely.
need
If you'd like, in the background lightly would be great. And we're going to do what's called an SRV affirmation, scientific remote viewing affirmation. Then I'm going to give you the target coordinates and have the session. So anybody who needs, first of all, to take a quick break for a minute or two, we'll get you a couple minutes here. Anybody who needs to grab new sheets of paper, blank sheets of paper, make sure you have 3 or 4 of them here. I would say you may not need that many, but that would be good just in case. And in about a minute, we're going to start this session with a short meditation.
I think I have a remote viewing binaural beat we can listen to.
I'm all for it.
Okay.
Something we always listen to at the Monroe Institute, binaural beats. That's when you can hear some of it from the conscious mind, usually between 5, I think it's 5 hertz, megahertz to 20. And that's the conscious mind. You can hear with that. And then the binaural is the second beat, is for more where this background subconscious, you can't hear it consciously. That's usually between 1 and 3 megahertz. But when you combine those two, creates that binaural beat. And the whole idea with studying out-of-body experiences at the Monroe Institute is that creates like a cerebral wavelength inside the brain that allows some type of neural network transference to take place and allows information to be brought from the theta brainwave state to the beta brainwave state. And this is getting pretty sophisticated, but that's why this is all called the study of out-of-body experiences, scientific remote viewing, etc. But there is a basis to all of this type of process. And what Jason was just describing, the binaural beats, as you can hear some of this consciously, but also subconsciously. And what they do is they combine to create that cerebral wavelength inside the brain that creates a network that allows information to be transferred from the theta brainwave state to the beta. And you have 4 brainwave states. Delta is sleeping below 4 hertz. Theta is just before you wake and go to sleep, which you're most open to gathering information of various subtleties that you can sense other energies around you. Alpha is daydreaming between 8 and 13 hertz, and then it's the beta, the waking state, between 14 and 32 hertz.
You about ready?
I am. Got ready your sheets of paper. You want to have fun doing this, no pressure. You're just doing a little exercise here for your subconscious, subspace aspect of being. Here's the meditation. Okay, let us all just relax and pause. And focus on your breathing, and you can close your eyes. We're going to do this for a couple minutes. You can use pranayama breathing, in one nostril, out the other if you'd like. Or just simple deep breaths and hold it for a couple seconds and exhale. You don't want to talk too much, but just focus on your breathing. Relax yourself. Roughly 1 more minute. Breathe in deeply. Hold it for a few seconds, then exhale. Okay, in another couple seconds, we're going to move on and read an SRV affirmation. This is the SRV affirmation. I am a spiritual being. Because I'm a spiritual being, I'm able to perceive beyond all boundaries of time and space. My consciousness is ever present with all it is, with all it ever was, and with all it ever will be. It is my nature as a human to be able to perceive and thus to know all that there is to know. Everywhere at all times, I seek to learn and thus to evolve. To further my own personal growth and to assist others in their growth, I direct my attention to a chosen point of existence. I observe what is there. I study it carefully. I record what I find. Phase 1. Prepare to receive your target coordinates, about 3 inches from the top on the left-hand side of your sheet of paper. And right after these target coordinates, sketch out your ideogram. 3, 9, 1, 7, 8, 4, 5, 3. Sketch out your ideogram. One of those. So far, your sheet of paper should look something like this. Again, these are just examples. It's not even the same numbers, but you want your target coordinates, 2 sets of 4 numbers, ideogram to the right. Okay, let's go off to the far right now. Same sheet of paper, directly across from your ideogram sketch, IL, ideogram label, colon, IL colon. What did you just sketch out? Was it a subject of an ideogram, structure ideogram, water, dry land, mountain or pyramid, energy or motion? Which ideogram did you just sketch out? Drop 2 inches under that, write A colon, and line that up with the IL colon. And then in a sentence or a couple of few different words, describe the movement of your pen with words. Up, down, left, right, loop, point, slant, slope, jagged. Describe the movement of your pen with words. So far, your sheet of paper should look something like this. Again, not this exact data, but this format. Probing, very important part of remote viewing. We went over this earlier in the previous class. Take the tip of your pen. Don't strain with it, just hold it firmly, but not too hard. And you're going to start probing where you're touching the ideogram a second or two. Do this 3-4 times and come up for a second or two each time. And we're probing for primitive descriptors. Is it S for soft? This goes underneath the A, about an inch underneath that. SS for semi-soft, H for hard, SH semi-hard, W wet, M mushy. Probe the ideogram several times. Take your time. Again, we're just learning the process, just learning the protocols and phases. Probe the ideogram for your primitive descriptors. It's soft, semi-soft, hard, semi-hard, wet, mushy. Underneath that, we're going to probe the ideogram once more for what's called advanced descriptors. Tip of the pen again, touch the ideogram 2 or 3 times, a second or two each time. N for natural, MM for man-made, A for artificial, E for energetics, M for motion. And again, while you're doing this, don't forget, if something comes to your conscious mind and you can't get it out, D hyphen, wherever it is on the page, off to the right-hand side, D hyphen, write it out. It's a deduction. Drop your pen, take a few breaths, relax, discipline yourself. You're pushing it out. It doesn't matter if it's good or bad information. You just want to record the data you sense. Anything that has a strong name or label, we deduct. All right, so far, your session could look like this. Again, not precisely with this data, but this is the format. You've got your target coordinates, your ideogram label, colon, A, colon, describing the movement of pen with words. You probe the ideogram for your primitive descriptors. Again, you probe the ideogram again for your advanced descriptors. You had one deduction, hyphen, you write it out. You may have had 3 deductions. You may have had 0 deductions. Whatever it is you're getting, always write it out. I will go over this when and if people take classes. Always do not edit anything and always deduct everything. It's very important. Do not edit anything, deduct everything if you get something, sensing it as a label or a name. Okay, now let's grab a clean sheet of paper and we're going to start sketching out. And this isn't a practice target, this is your actual target, the target that you're sensing. So start sketching out. Remember, we're not interested in doing any type of ideogram sketches here. We want to sketch out, not interested in artistic ability, not interested in grammar, not interested in spelling. But start sketching out what you sense. It may only be one thing or you may get 2 or 3 things. But what you do is you close your eyes, relax with your breathing. Don't think, but just let information come to you. Open your mind, your subspace aspect of being, and let the information come to you. Even if you have to relax, just have the tip of the pen and your forefinger and fingers there and feel around the page actually with your fingers if you'd like. And the page, it can be landscape style or portrait style. It doesn't matter, whatever you're comfortable with, whatever you're feeling. Sometimes people even do a session and they get an upside down aspect of it, and that's fine too. Main thing is just sketch out what you sense. Don't force anything. We're going to do this for several minutes. We're going to feel around the page, take your breaths. Anything high level that comes to you, meaning a label, or you have to guess something or get something off your chest, or that's coming to you consciously a few times or one time, D off to the right, D hyphen, deduct it, whatever it is, write it out, drop your pen. Again, you're clearing it out like a broom, sweeping it out, picking up your pen, go back to your sketch. Listen to your intuition, listen to your subtle senses. Do not deduct, do not edit anything and deduct everything. My apology. And we're going to keep at this right here, this phase 3, for another minute or 2 here. So don't rush. If you're not getting much, that's okay. Don't rush it. Don't force it. Let the data flow. Sketch it out, no matter how ridiculous or unimportant it might seem. Little details, bigger details. What are you sensing in this remote viewing session? Another few seconds. Again, listen to your intuition and subtle senses. Sketch it out.
Remember, you can use your pen to probe the actual coordinates again to get a feel.
Yep, absolutely. And within the next 30, 40 seconds, at the bottom of that page in the middle, put end of session and the time that you ended the session. And again, this could be, whatever time it is, whether it's 9:55 p.m. or 9:56, or if you're watching this through another venue or later on as it was recorded, whatever time you've got, write down underneath end of session : the time. Okay, everyone. Should look like this now. Whatever the sketch is, whatever you got, could be a much more larger image on the page, could be 1 or 2 things, 3 or 4 things. End of session on the bottom. Now we're going to reveal what the target is. And again, when you're learning remote viewing, everybody wants to get a target or they're their own worst judge. Don't worry about those things.
And I don't know what the target is.
No, Jason does not know what the target is. So, we're here. We're going to look at this, and you may get bits and pieces of it, maybe some of it, maybe a large part of it, maybe none of it, but we're just exercising our subconscious mind and getting information from the subconscious to the conscious to pen to paper. Here's what the target is, or was this evening, today.
Oh,
the Titanic.
Oh, wow. I did get an ocean.
That's good.
You know what? I got an ocean with, let me see. Looks like a mountain, but it's really more of a ocean than water.
Well, I don't know, Jay. I mean, you got 2 different, spikes in there too. It looks mountainous, but I mean, it could be construed as something else. I'm not going to push it, but it's definitely, you have something on water without question. And
we want to hear from you guys in the chat.
Now to review, and if you got different things, like these are some of the things that hopefully you got. Something structure, like maybe rectangular, the idea of boat, many people, man-made, big, massive. If you felt any of these things when you were probing and when you're writing deductions, concave, again, water, ocean, floating, historic, ship, sail, steer, navigate, event, disaster, stack, part of boat, steam, the bow, windows, pole, stern, spar, waves, ice, tragedy, death, colors black and white. Excuse me, any of those things are good pieces of data. If you've got several, if anybody got several of those, great. I mean, that's part of what you're doing when you're remote viewing. And yet remember, everybody, with SRV or any form of remote viewing, perhaps the most important thing are the potential byproducts and enhancing cognitive and intuitive abilities, ability to focus, memory recall, and noticing more gut feeling and noticing more synchronicity in one's life.
Well, Tony, you got some people that's responding to you.
Water and waves. See, that's just like what you got there, Jay. So you got, and that's huge. I mean, she did not get, a tall, city of structures. She's not in outer space on the moon or anything like that. I mean, water and waves is, obviously a big part of what this was. So
here you go, right here, another one.
A waterfall with the bottom of the, I can't see that because of what
the bottom of the water being rough.
Good. Okay, good. I mean, those are 2 big things there. That's
Only
a lot of
people are.
You guys all got water. That's pretty good.
That is pretty good.
And I want to say thank you to everybody for attending this. Again, it's just the tip of the iceberg of learning remote viewing. There's 5 different phases, and I teach it anywhere from phase 1 through 3. We did 1 and 3 today, but there would be a bit more to phase 1 on this. And there's also obviously learning the whole kit and caboodle of phases 1 through 5, like I've done with Jason. So,
and I owe you a whole lot, Tony. Tony actually, he did me a big favor about 2 weeks ago. He helped me in a session with the famous Skinwalker Ranch, and that ranch has been known for UFO anomalies for a number of years. And I wanted to do that session so that I could add it in my book and talk about it. And Tony was great, and we were able to get some great information. And I just want to tell you thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. It was a fun session. That's a good thing about remote viewing. One thing I've learned is you got to keep it fun if you can. Yeah, it's work. There's no question about it. And you strain your brain. I think one of the toughest weeks I ever had, I had done a lot of exercising and working out and competitive bodybuilder, etc. in the past. But when I went to the Fireside Institute, that was an exhausting week that I had there. And I didn't lift anything heavier than a pen that whole week. And it was, it was exhausting because it was work, it was focus, etc. But if anybody, and obviously I'll give a plug, or if you want to give a plug to the website,
Yeah, you go ahead. Yes.
www.learnremoteviewing.net.
Repeat it one more time, Tony.
www.learnremoteviewing.net. So if anybody wants to learn a little bit more about it, or perhaps has interest or has questions for me about potentially taking a class, I don't push anybody to do this, but it is fun, and you get to exercise an aspect of your being that we all have, but it just doesn't get exercised. Thank you, Jason. It just doesn't get exercised all that much. And this type of class structure and schedule, we
Glasses
meet
on, boy.
once or twice a week for several weeks. It's 8 different classes or courses, 8 different classes to get through it. We can do 4 live one-on-ones, and the whole thing is on video as well at my website, when and if you decide to take it. And Jason and I have some other ideas too. Perhaps maybe we do something in the future, in the fall, maybe, where we do like a group with your community here, and you and I are the co-teachers of it, and we just teach this class on the side.
Yeah, we
That's
do a
an idea
seminar.
too.
Yeah, do a seminar course, and this is a very fascinating tool, and it's a lot of women that are really into remote viewing. I went to the International Remote Viewing Conference, and it was in
California.
Yeah, it was in California, the RRVA. I joined the IRVA. So it was at the Farsight Institute. Well, it was down the street from the Farsight Institute, and it was an amazing 3-day conference. All the major players, some of the same people who taught you, Tony.
Yeah.
But what was so amazing about it, and I wouldn't say amazing, but what was so special about it is it was more than 70% women that were attending. And when I tell you sharp women, very sharp.
I know that. Yes, I had some of my history with remote viewing and teaching it, and some of the projects I've been involved with. There's definitely been more ladies involved with it than gentlemen, to be honest with you. And yeah, the IRVA conferences, I've been to them before. I've gone a couple of times when they were held in Las Vegas. And yes, you probably met a lot of my mentors and gurus over there as well. So yeah, I think there's always information to be had and tips to be found, but everybody eventually comes up with their own way of doing it. Even though they follow the protocols and phases, they come up with their own style and time frames and a comfort zone after they do this so many times.
I know. Well, Tony, we run out of time tonight, but brother, I really appreciate it, and I think that the audience, they really love doing these sessions. I encourage you guys to go to Tony's website, learnremoteviewing.net, learnremoteviewing.net, and look at some of his packages. Very, very, very sensible. Tony's not trying to rob you, but he will give you some tools that you can use to locate missing keys, maybe look at what type of job should you take, what neighborhood should you live in. You can use remote viewing for a number of things.
Yeah, it's just using your intuition, exercising that, and being able to bring that data a little bit forward. I think sometimes people have things and they get pent up and they don't know how to bring it out, or this is just one tool that allows that practice to take place, so that information is more, how should we say, brought about and becomes more aware in your day-to-day life.
Right. Well, Tony, thank you
very much, Jason, and your audience, and the beautiful young ladies that help participate and make this a very good evening to do a remote viewing session. Hopefully you all got water. It seemed like a lot of people did. So congratulations on all of that, actually. And we'll talk to you soon, Jay. And thank you again for having me on, and everybody for coming aboard and taking a look at this quick session to get yourself more familiar with the idea of basic scientific remote viewing. And if anybody needs to get a hold of me, please feel free to do so. And you have the website. Thank you much.
Okay. Thanks, Tony. Okay, you guys heard it. www.learnremoteviewing.net. Learnremoteviewing.net. Tony's a fabulous teacher. I talk about him all the time to the people who know me. I've learned a lot of different techniques. I've been able to look at a lot of different places in the past, quite frankly. I've looked at maybe a few things here in the future as well. I've been able to predict future events using associated remote viewing. I'm pretty advanced at it. So, but what I started with scientific remote viewing, and that was the base. And I still use scientific remote viewing in a lot of my work. But I want to thank Tony Sivalelli for coming on. He's always welcome here because he always leaves the audience with something they can take back with them and expand their consciousness. And I know that I gave a few announcements out earlier. You guys probably couldn't see me. I had to switch over to the regular cam, but I want to also make sure that I don't miss. We're I'm sorry. I don't want to make sure I miss this. When you go to the website expansionofconsciousness.net in the next few days, we will be offering courses on energy healing, different things with helping you move yourself into a place of understanding with your spirit guides. If you want to meet your spirit guides, I'm able to facilitate that as well. So there'll be a lot of interesting things that you'll see on the site. I just earned my Master Oracle certificate, and now I am a galactic energy healer teacher level, master level. So I'm pretty excited about that. So we're growing the brand and the platform. There'll be a lot of apparel on the platform as well. So we're excited about that coming out, and we can't wait till you guys take a look at it. But until then, I know it's getting late, and I will sign off here. And I'm glad that you had a chance to do session 1 and 3. Get with Tony Sivalelli. He's a great teacher, and if you want to learn remote viewing, that's the place to start. But until then, good night, and we will see you later.